Hi, good evening. My name is Nam Ngo. I'm from the University of Trento in Italy. Today I'm here with my supervisor, Professor Fabio Massaggi. He's also in the audience to present our work that is called the FuturesMEX. That is a secure distributed futures market exchange. This is also our joint work with Daniele Venturi from University of Rome in Italy and other two economists, Jing Ni from the University of International Business and Economics in Beijing, China, and Professor Julian Williams from the Durham Business School in the UK. He's my supervisor's pictures in case he joined our discussion and you can recognize him. So in this talk today, I will cover the basic of futures trading, the exchange functionality, then we'll move to our motivation and discuss the technical challenges that we need to overcome when we implement this distributed exchange. We will also present our solution briefly, and finally we move to the performance evaluation. So essentially, a futures market is a double auction market where we can have the bidders from both buy and sell side. We call them traders. They will bid and ask for futures contracts, which are standardized promises to buy or sell something. This something can be barrels of oil, bushels of coins, or even the exchange rate of US dollar and euro. And these promises are made today, but to be fulfilled in a future date. And the traders will need to deposit some cash reserve into the exchange to make sure that they can meet the promises. And all these trading activities are managed by the exchange platforms. One of the largest platforms in the world right now is the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. And as of today, all of the exchanges are centralized. We also use the CME here as an example for our implementation. To understand the basic of futures trading, let's look at a very simple example. So we have a market here that have two traders, Alice and Bob. They deposit some cash into the exchange for the reserve. They start with no promises. The market price for each promise now is $10. So Alice sells 100 promises to Bob, and Bob buys 100 promises from Alice. Now the exchange will credit Alice with $1,000 for the contracts, and will debit Bob $1,000 for the contracts. But Alice will have to buy back these promises at a later point. That is, for example, at the end of the trading day. So from at that point, if the market price is 8, it means that Alice has made a profit of $200 because she only the exchange will only debit $800 from her account when the promises are fulfilled using the market price. In another case, if the market price increases to 12, then in this case, Bob made a profit instead of Alice when the promises are fulfilled. So the risk here is that what if the market price increased to 23? Alice certainly will not have 2,300 to be debited, right? So Alice will go broke, and the exchange will have to prevent this from happening. And one interesting property of the market is that the market price is volatile. So the exchange will have to constantly look at Alice's account when the price rises slowly from 12 to 15 to 17. Everything is fine until the price hit 22. The exchange will know that Alice's cash reserve is now at 0. So the exchange must do something because Alice is going to be broke if the price increases further. So the exchange will give Alice a margin call. Nowadays, it is just an API interact with Alice's computer or Alice's agency. But in the past, it's actually a phone call to Alice. So the exchange will ask Alice to deposit more money to increase the reserve. But so if Alice cannot do it, her account will need to be liquidated. It means that Alice will be pushed out of the market and she will lose all her money. So the exchange has three functions. The first function is to publish the order book by aggregating all orders while protecting trader anonymity. So if we look at the order book on the right here, we see that the orders are separated into two sides, the buy side and the sell side. But we can only see the price and the amount of contracts that are available, but not the identity of the trader. This is also where we can obtain the market price. It is a completely internal-driven process of market price discovery by taking the average of the best buy and the best sell price. So the second function of the exchange is to match the orders on both sides for actual transactions. Because if the price, if the best buy and best sell price are separated, there will not be any transactions. The final function of the exchange is to manage risk, as we have seen in the previous example, by constantly manage the trader's account when the price oscillates. This is especially difficult in the presence of high-frequency traders. It means that these traders post a lot of orders, but only a few of them are matched. So if we look at the real data that we obtain from the CME, even for a low-frequency market like the Linhawk futures, the number of orders are 6,000, but the actual matches are only 500. It is even more severe in high-frequency markets like the euro-dollar, where the number of transactions, where the number of orders are more than 300,000, but the actual matches are only 8,000. So to summarize the functionality of the exchange, it starts with all traders deposit some cash reserve into the exchange, and then they can start to post order or they can cancel their pending orders. The exchange will need to check if the traders can actually afford these actions before trying to match the buy side and the sell side for actual transactions. Then the exchange will go back to the post order and cancel order state. If the exchange can find any risk here, for example, there are some new prop traders, the exchange will proceed to cancel all the pending orders of these prop traders, and then will liquidate their accounts before going back to the post order and cancel order state. At the end of the day, or if the exchange cannot fix the prop position at all, the exchange will need to mark all the traders to market, meaning that liquidate all the accounts using the market price at that point. So FuturesMEX is our work to replace the centralized exchange to allow buy and sell promises based on limited cash reserve, while enforcing trading discipline and at the same time protecting market integrity. To do so, we need to overcome several technical challenges. The easier to see is that we need to maintain market integrity, and also we need to solve the consensus problem as other distributed systems. They are less obvious to see and are also market specific. So first we have the problem of account confidentiality and trade anonymity. So if we look at systems like Bitcoin, these are only nice to have features, because essentially you can see that the transactions in clear and the anonymity mechanism in Bitcoin is broken. We also observe that the non-monotonic behavior of the exchange, in which honest actions can actually invalidate past security evidences, is also a challenge for us. We also want to maintain the proportional burden property, because we can see the presence of high-frequency traders is very harmful for the other retail and institutional traders. And finally, all of these must come as a package, or nothing will work individually. So to highlight the importance of confidentiality and anonymity in the futures market, let's look at the following price discrimination attack. So we have for traders Alice, Bob, Charlie, and Eve here. And if these two properties are broken, and E can know that Alice is tied in cash, and Alice must buy 90 contracts back at the end of the day. So the question to ask here is that, can Eve bankrupt Alice to take her money? So the question is yes, Eve can run an evil scheme to push the price to 11.5. So for example, if we look at the order book at the bottom, the only thing that prevents the price going from 10 to higher is Charlie's order at 11. So if Eve can convince Charlie to cancel this order, the market price immediately go to 11.5, and as a result, Alice is pushed out of our market. Then Bob, Charlie, and Eve can divide her money. And this attack only works if Eve knows exactly Alice's position. Otherwise, this scheme will not only be unsuccessful, but Eve actually can hurt herself, because if the price keeps increasing, then Alice will have no problem, but Eve can somehow run out of cash using this method. So the next challenge is the non-monotonicity. As in the example, we can see that even though Alice does nothing, only Charlie cancels her order, but Alice's position still changes. This is a new property that doesn't exist in previous system, like the payment system, e-voting, or reputation. So for example, in a payment system, when Alice does nothing and Bob sends X coin to Charlie, it only affects Bob and Charlie's account. But in a futures market, an order can affect all positions, including Alice's position. And as a result, Alice can become broke. So for non-monotonicity here, even though Alice does nothing, but Alice's crypto evidence of good standing is invalidated by Bob's action. And actually here, Bob is a good guy. So in our solution, we use pretty standard crypto primitives to implement our system. For confidentiality and integrity, we use commitments and zero-net proof. For anonymity, we rely on anonymous network and a Merkle tree. We also maintain a list of spent and unspent tokens for preventing double spending. And for non-monotonicity, we use the memorization technique, in which we aggregate several information of the pending orders into the trader account. And we only use generic MPC in the final step of checking positions. It is critical to use MPC here because we want to hide the number of block traders. So imagine the case where there is only one block trader and the exchange proceeds to cancel all her pending orders. Certainly her orders will be linked together, and her trading strategy will be reviewed, and it is very harmful for her for the future. The reason why we avoid generic MPC is that if we use generic MPC, everybody would do the same computation, no matter you make 1 or 1,000 orders. And this is extremely unfair for the retail and institutional traders, as the high-frequency traders post 82% of orders, but they are of the minority, because the retail and institutional traders are 71% of the total number of traders. And as we can see from the data that we obtained from the Linhawk futures in the first quarter of 2017 here, the number of orders are very large comparing to the actual matches. So in our protocol, we use mostly zero-net proof. So the traders posting order must prove for their valid action, but the passive traders only need to verify, and they only participate equally in the final checking step using MPC. We confirm this with our simulation. So in this chart on the x-axis, we show the trading days of the first quarter of 2017, and on the y-axis, we show the crypto overhead for the trading day. So in this case, we measure the burden, the computational effort of the retail traders who make only few orders and mostly passive all the time. So as we can see here, the generic MPC implementation requires the overhead of magnitudes of order higher comparing to our hybrid solution. So if we look at the peak here, it means that 1 day of trading in the market would require almost 3 years to run. So one final thing to solve is that because we use commitments and zero-knowledge proof, a malicious party can simply abort to halt our protocol. In this case, we choose to mark to market and at the same time penalize the malicious party. So there are two strategies that came recently. The first one is called claim or refund by Kumarasa in 2016. This is not applicable in our case because it requires an unequally distributed amount of deposit. And this is a problem, especially the deposit is huge. For example, $1 million. So we opt for the locked and release strategy in which we just lock the initial cash and then we release it after the mark-to-market phase. So we can just prevent the malicious party to join the mark-to-market, so he cannot claim the reward. So for we obtain pretty bad performance in our direct implementation. So we need to proceed with several optimization. So the first is that we streamline the number of commitments to reduce the zero-proof generation time. Second is that we replace the heavy MPC with consistency check for the commitment with a lighter MPC using the penalty strategy. With this, we obtain a much better result. So our final evaluation showed that the crypto overhead, in this case, it is for all traders. The generic MPC is also magnitude of order higher comparing to our solution. And we can fit most of the trading days of the lean hop into 1 or 2 commutation days. And if we use other optimization technique, we can already offset these overhead. So I'll quickly summarize my talk here. So distributed financial protocols are very desirable, but it is not always monotonic, and a viable protocol requires crypto effort proportional to activities. We have implemented a secure solution for low frequency market like Linhawk, but there are more to do. First, we can try to handle the high frequency market like Eurodollar, or we can try to improve the dropout tolerance mechanism. So if there is an abort, we can actually recover and continue to operate instead of marking to market. Or we can extend the functionality to the dark pool where the orders are not fully public anymore, but some of them are visible conditionally. With this, I finish my talk, and I'm happy to take questions. Thank you.
We have time for one question. Anybody? Well, let me ask one quick question. So to improve the performance, you have to optimize your system in some way, right? Any security implication of this optimization at all?
Excuse me?
Do you have any, so during your optimization of the system, do you think there are any security implications resulted from the optimization?
No, not at all.
Okay.
So let me explain this. We have two optimization, right? The first is to streamline number of commitments. We observe that when we do the direct implementation, we introduce many intermediate commitments. And when you do the commitment check in the zero proof, you actually do a lot of computation. So we simply combine a number of circuits, and some of the values can actually be packed together. So for example, in a trader's account, we have 3 flags, 3 binary flags. We can actually be combined into only one single integer flag. And the second optimization is we completely remove the consistency check in the generic MPC because we use the SHA-256 in the generic MPC, which is very heavy. So instead, we only input the raw value into the MPC, and later we, so for example, we use it for detecting prop trader. So everybody input their value, and if they detect a prop trader, the prop trader will need to proceed to prove that he's actually prop using zero proof. If he does not do that, then we will consider that as an abort, and we will penalize him. So you will lose the deposit anyway.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Our question? Any other questions? Okay, let's thank speaker again.